Hi class, in this video I'll be formatting example of the midterm. So I'm just working on the theme. I wanted to show you some healthy, good formatting practices to be using on this. A lot of students, despite what they've learned so far, they still struggle with formatting. And the main goal of this class is not really to become a master of InDesign. It's just to get good at formatting type. So here we go. We should help you understand InDesign. First off, find a font family. I decided to go with Paralucent. And I normally just pick a big old family off of Adobe Font, or I download a Google font. And I'll just choose the regular member of the family first and set everything to that font. So whatever looks like it's in the middle. How about medium? Okay. For the title, which is going to be, there's a three-part hierarchy, right? If I were lazy, this is what the hierarchy would look like. Of course, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to format things correctly. The very top, I want this to be all caps, and I'm going to choose the heaviest font I have, and I'm going to make this into 3 lines. I'm going to press Shift Enter this way. So I showed my hidden characters so you can see, but this is called a soft return. So I'm going to make a soft return. Go right here, bring this back, hold down Shift Enter, make a soft return, and you can see this guy is a full paragraph. If you were to just press Enter, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but again, I try to keep things solid, professional. Again, I'm going to select the whole line and set this to heavy. The reason I did that is because this line, for some reason, wasn't selected the first time around. I'm a stickler. I don't want to see InDesign mess me up. I'll take this all the way up to some huge number. You might think 72 is dramatic, but it's actually not dramatic enough for me. I'm going to grab this, every line, all the way across, these 3 lines, and I'll set this to, how about we try at 100. Great. Okay. So as you can see, there's way too much space between these lines. They look really divided. The rule of proximity is not being followed, which is the group-related element. So how do we get these guys closer together? This is a line spacing issue, so they need to be tightened up. Now there's no descenders or ascenders for any of the individual letters, so I can afford to make the leading tight. So I can adjust that by pressing Alt and up, or I can just adjust it over here like this. The Alt and the up arrow as the keystroke for adjusting leading. Now I don't want them to run into each other or anything, but I just want uniform space between all these. There we go, I got my title. This is the second part of my hierarchy, and I want this to be large as well. How about for this guy, we'll choose another stroke width. In fact, medium's probably fine actually. I think I'll just stick with that. And I'll take my point size up. Let's say 48. How's that? That's not too bad. Look kind of huge, but I can live with it. And I'm going to add some space above this paragraph. So if you wanted to, you could, instead of having 3 paragraphs, you could press Shift Enter right here. And then this is 1 paragraph and this is another. Of course, you don't have to do this. This is just something I like to practice because I know I'm going to keep all these guys together as a group, so I don't mind. And I'm going to add space above this. Space this out. The last part is going to be the author name. This is the author name right here. I don't mind if it's a little bit bigger, but it's the third part of the hierarchy. It needs to be smaller. And I'm going to set the size just for now to light. I think thin is probably going to end up being too thin. So I'll just stick with light. And then I'll drop this down, allow some space above this paragraph as well. And Another option would be to use leading. I just didn't feel like it. All right, so this is a visual thing where I just want to check that these are spaced out properly. But, here is a little spacer, just a little box I drew, and I'll drag this down here, and I want to make sure these guys are at least similar. I think that this looks much better. Another issue is going to be the space between these lines. I'm happy with the spacing. I look at this space right here, which needs to be uniform. I have another video that talks about this uniform spacing idea. I like to center things top to bottom too. I think it's a good practice. So I'll go to the text frame options and I will adjust the vertical justification and set this to center. So everything is within the margins, as you can see. These are the margins. The text goes here, and if you want to work with graphics, colors, which we do want to do, you can go ahead and mix those, and you can work with different tints of them. Well, how do you mix a color? On this project, I suggest just having one color. Just make it a one color assignment and use multiple, shades of that color. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a color. So select whatever color you want, or none. Just say new color swatch, doesn't matter. But open up a new color swatch, and mix your color. I like to scroll up and use HSB, which stands for hue, saturation, and brightness. I pick out the hue that I want. In this case, let's just make it an orange. I'll take up the brightness, saturation. This little mark right there is telling me that it's out of gamut if I were to print with this color. Don't worry about that for now. We'll talk about that when it's relevant. So you want a nice dark saturated color. This is because we're not going to use black. We're going to just pick out a dark color. So I'm going to pick out a nice dark color. Okay, picking it out. So let's say that this is the color I want, some shade of orange. In fact, let's forget that. Let's just use green. All right, so I'm picking out a green, maybe like a tealish type green. It's one of my favorite colors. And there we go. That looks pretty good to me. Nice and dark. How's that? I'll take that all the way down to like 25. So it's pretty close to black. And press OK. Boom. Now I'm going to make some different tints of that color. So that's how let's talk about how that works. I can take this down to 50 and press plus. I'll get another tint to that. I could take this down to 10 or 15 possibly, and that's going to give me another much lighter version of this color. All right, so look at that. So this guy, I'll take the tint back up to 100. This guy's 50. This guy is going to be, well, this says 17. I don't like that. I want that to be, let's just make it 10. Okay, so there we go. Well, I wanted this to be 10. I don't know why that kind of reverted back. Well, I'm going to hit plus. That says 11 now? Okay, whatever. I'm going to delete this old one. I'm happy with 11. What's cool about this is if I decide to change my base color, it'll actually change all the colors down the stack. So I'm going to go ahead, pick myself a background color. This goes all the way to the edges, and I'll pick this light color. Why not? Again, there's several ways to do this, but this is just what I'm choosing to do. And I'm going to select this and pick the dark version of the color. There we have it. If you want it to be creative, I wouldn't say this is amazingly creative, but it's something. You could, do something like this. Maybe send this guy to the back. Right. Then I would have to send this to the back as well, using a keystroke, Control, Shift, left bracket, and then I'll select this text. And I could choose this lighter color for it. Even a white would be okay in this case. Now there's still some issues to address here, some things to address. And that's just getting control of your spacing and technically how you do it. Well, the spacing is thrown off now because of the fact I used this box. Otherwise the spacing would have been fine, but now it's a little messed up because the space between here and here, make a little red mark, and here are going to look the same. But this line is creating this illusion that this is one big group, that this group, that the line isn't here below M. It's literally physically this line. So yeah, it's going to look better if I drop this down a little bit further. And that spacer that I was using, I would actually use that here. And take this down like that. And put this little spacer here. Right? And then drop this line down until it lines up the top of that. And that should look aesthetically better because then we have consistent looking spacing. Okay? Alright, cool. So let me delete that. Very nice. If I press W, I can see what the slide actually looks like. And we've got some really consistent spacing. Nice and pretty. On this page, which I'm not going to format for you, remember that the emphasis is put on this. In other words, it's put on the part, not on the word typography fundamentals midterm. So the way this was formatted is the best way to do this. If you're using another way, I'm not checking your file, and you can put yourself to the trouble, I guess, if you want to work with multiple text frames. But I don't suggest it. I think it's a bad practice. Obviously, you can use any font you want. I really just insist that you at least have two strong members of the family. That you pick a typeface and use a bold member and a regular or a thin member at least. So your contrasting stroke thicknesses. There's many other ways to do this, but let's not make it super complicated. This is an effort. The whole reason I'm making this video is an effort to try to make this a little bit more achievable for you. If you want to be, and I'll say this in class, but if you want to do something more dramatic, more power to you. But I'm going to be a stickler about this hierarchy and your spacing and your grouping and it looking just nice and sharp and professional and easy to read. So beware letting graphics or using a ton of different fonts because it's going to lose you some points on this assignment. Well, I hope you found this helpful. Thank you for listening. Have a good one.